Yo, welcome to another episode of the McKale Madness podcast. I'm Saul Bookman. That is Corey Williams. And Corey, you were not a big fan of the Little Apple, were you?
I'll just say, I'm a Pac-12 guy, so I'm used to big cities, nice airports. And I shouldn't say nice airport, bigger airport. I'm just used to different. It was an experience. I was there about 36 hours. Pleasant people, great campus, great atmosphere for the game. Would I kick it in Kansas like that? No, I'm not really going. I'm not going to lie to you, man. That's not my spot, man. Manhattan, Kansas is not a destination for you, boy.
Well, I will say this. You kind of got there a day too early because after the game, apparently Aggieville was lit. Because the kids knew that they didn't have school the next day because they knew it was going to get snowed out. And so school was canceled already for Wednesday. So everybody balled out on a Tuesday. They had the club going up.
Yeah.
On a Tuesday.
They shut down campus over 6 inches of snow?
I guess. I don't know.
Oh, man,
they would shut down campus for 1 inch of snow here. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I'm from, you got to go back to Illinois, Champaign, U of I. They just shovel it out the way and keep it pushing.
Yeah, I mean, hey, not everybody's built like that. I know I ain't. I'm not about that cold life, man. Forget that. Yeah. And neither are you or your parents because they all live here in Arizona, right?
30 years now. I've been out in the sunshine. If it gets below 40, I get to bitching real fast. So, I know I don't have that thick Illinois skin that I had the first 18 years of my life. That is long gone. I'm sensitive.
Yeah. Tell me about it. Well, hey, listen, thick skin or not, Arizona had to develop a little bit of thick skin after that loss because it was ugly. It was ugly, and it was a winnable game. And I think that's what most people are frustrated about is they definitely felt like, granted, we all knew Kansas State was playing very well, but the way both teams played, it just felt like that was a game that Arizona should have pulled out. And really, when it comes down to it, it's one thing, in my opinion, and it was just the turnovers, the timeliness of the turnovers was just so egregious. And some of those turnovers, because of the lackadaisical nature by which they happened, led directly to easy baskets on the other end. And that, to me, was the biggest difference between just turning the ball over and turning the ball over to give them essentially free points. And when you lose by that little, it hurts.
Yeah, when you go back and look at a game, the coaches were doing the deep dive immediately after the game, watching film, and it all stood out. I mean, Arizona hardly got to the free throw line, and that tells you a little bit about their offensive aggressiveness. The turnovers, the general rule of thumb among coaches, and I subscribe to this as well, it's about a point per turnover. When you turn it over, it's costing you about a point. Assuming you shoot the ball at 35 or 40%. So you can do the math. You can take those turnovers and convert them into point opportunities for Arizona, and that gives you the difference in the game. And then you shoot 2 for 22 from 3, and you lose the game by 3 points. Yeah. And there's your ball game. You don't really need to do a lot of deep diving on that. The horrible shooting from the outside plus the turnovers. Totally a gettable game for Arizona. Slipped through their fingers. They've already won some tough road games, so this one doesn't sting that much, but you feel like they need to get one back to make up for the one that they let slip away.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And that's part of this is that, you said 17-3 in the conference should win you the conference or at least get you a top seed in the tournament. And with that metric, they got one to play with. That's it. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. They got one play, and they can't drop any at home. And they got 8 games left. 4 of them at home, 4 of them are on the road. And it's going to be a challenge for Arizona, who ends the season with some dogs. Okay. Not only do you play Houston now, but you also have to go on the road and basically finish the season with Baylor, Iowa State, and Kansas on the road. Those are 3 tough venues, tough teams to play against when everybody's scratching and clawing trying to get, their seeding solidified for not only the Big 12 tournament, but also the NCAA tournament. So it's going to be it's going to be an uphill climb to try and get to that 1 seed. But overall, you got to be, satisfied with where Arizona is at currently. And you have a huge, huge opportunity this Saturday to kind of control your destiny, which Arizona still does at this point. They still control their own destiny in terms of trying to win the Big 12 outright in the regular season. And it starts Saturday against Houston. But before we get to that point, Corey, what were some things that to you that stood out since you were there? You were in the arena. What were some things that you felt like were good, and maybe some things that not so much?
I thought the way Arizona started the game was pretty good. Del Orso got off. They seemed to be doing okay. They got up 7, and then the wheels just fell off
Quickly.
They fell off quickly. And when you have a team like Kansas State that's not going to execute and just shoot you out the gym, they're not going to beat you up with postmen. The only way they're going to beat you is feeding off your mistakes. And when you start getting what I call these raw emotional energy plays, Arizona allowed that to happen. They allowed the raw energy plays to happen, the turnovers, the dunks, the crowd, the transition buckets where the crowd was going wild. That was the only way Kansas State was going to hang with Arizona, is if they started playing emotional basketball. So what you want to do is get up 7, take the air out of the ball, push that 7-point lead to 11, 12 at half, come out in the second half, push it out to 15, and then trade baskets for the last 10 minutes of the game. That's how you close out on the road. What you don't want to happen is a big shot right before halftime. Every emotional play Doug McDaniel could possibly make for Kansas State, he made. I thought Arizona's defense on him wasn't bad, but it wasn't great, because when I see the smallest guy on the lane on the court coming down the lane like this,
Yeah,
I'm like, come on now, we can't have that.
But when you hit that side one-legged running jumper, that like, come on, man, like that was good defense. It was just a great shot. Like, and I just like, it is what it is.
True, but if you flash back to the BYU game when Demon was cooking Arizona, they put KJ on him in the second half and shut him down. I was expecting a similar result out of Arizona, just to say, hey, we're going to push the ball somewhere else to somebody else, and that never happened. So
yeah.
His one-on-one plays were big for Kansas State. The arena was rocking. Arizona didn't fold. I thought coming out of the timeout, the turnover where KJ lost the ball and they went down, got a dunk and one, that kind of was, man, that was the one, because I think we had the ball looking to tie, and then all of a sudden we're down 5. So just late game execution just really wasn't there for Arizona. But at the same time, I think you can chalk this one up to the poor shooting. But even with the poor shooting, if you take care of the ball, you win that game.
Yeah, you do. I kind of looked at Jaden Bradley. They had an opportunity to tie, and Jaden Bradley lost the ball out of bounds on his own. He was trying to gather, and it just, again, when you see those types of things, it leads you to believe like it just ain't your night. Like, it just, everything is working against you. And for me, watching that game, it's not that I was satisfied with our performance in any stretch, but I felt, it just felt off. And so I guess maybe mentally in my head, I was starting to get reserved to the fact that we might drop this game. And when Arizona was on a run and, they started to, things started to click a little bit more, I was like, okay, we're good. But then, like you said, they were up 7 and then a 13-0 run to end the half for K-State. And now you're down by 6 going into half. You're like, what the hell just happened here?
Yeah.
These are the things that you can't really have happen on the road, and they will come back to bite you. And they did. And give Kansas State credit. They are one of the hottest teams in the country. They didn't play particularly well themselves either. They were 1 for 19 from 3. Again, but the difference down the stretch was they had a guy that was getting buckets, and we had a team that was trying to figure out where they needed to go with the ball at the time, and it just didn't work out. And you tip your hat and you move on, and I'm okay with that.
Well, I'm going to be doom and gloom here for a second.
Uh-oh.
The scoring droughts, that game felt like a first-round exit game.
That's what everybody keeps saying on Twitter too.
It felt like a game that you would play where you, oh my God, I can't believe we shot so bad. And then we had a 4-minute stretch where we didn't score, and we lost to a lesser team that was only better than us in that small 40-minute window. I I don't think Arizona played horrible defensively, but what I would say is when you have a scoring drought, there's got to be one or two guys who put the cape on, they go in the phone booth, they put on the cape and they come out and they get you 6, 7, 8 points and get you through the rough patch. I don't even know what Caleb Love finished with total wise. I do know he hoisted up a lot of threes. I think he only made one.
Didn't
His
even make one.
his line for the game, I don't know what his stat line was, but I know it was something that we would expect more from him. They've won games where Caleb hasn't scored a lot. They've won games where Caleb has scored a lot. The one thing I will say about this Arizona team is they do not have an offensive machine that, to me, I wouldn't call it reliable just yet.
No,
It's not a rain or shine offensive machine. And the K-State was evidence of that. Toby plays lights out at BYU and has a 17, he plays well. And then some games Trey does well. And then Bryant comes through and Jaden's always steady. And then Caleb will give you 5, 15, or 30. And it's like, we need a little consistency because these neutral site tournament games, this is how they feel. It's only a 40-minute affair. No one cares what you did the other 27, 28 games of the season. That neutral site game against the lower seed, you have to be consistent. You have to do things that you've done all year.
To your point, we talked about this last week about the vision board. And the two things on that vision board that we still had concerns about were a bread and butter offense and shooters. And both of those things were clearly evidently missing the other night in Manhattan, Kansas. That is just straight up what it was. Like, you didn't really have a bread and butter offense. I actually thought that they went away from the low post a little too much. I thought if there was anything that could give you the glimpse of being consistent, it would have been Tobe Awaka down low on the block. But he got into foul trouble. There was that inconsistency, that ebb and flow, and they couldn't get into a rhythm. But K-State didn't really have anybody that could stop him down low. And I would have liked it for them to focus on that a little bit more because nobody else was hitting. Nobody else was hitting outside. It took KJ about 25 minutes to finally get warmed up into the game offensively to start to get you some buckets. And he was attacking aggressively. He was the leading scorer on the night and 15 points. Caleb Love, 0 for 7 from 3, really struggled, only had 6 points on the night. Again, I just think you have to be aggressive at the rim. And there have been times where it's not that they get passive. It's just not clean. It's just not clean basketball. And it's very herky-jerky. You could tell when they're feeling a little jittery with the ball because it's just too loose. It's just too loose in the hands. Even something as simple as just dribbling, looking up. Sometimes, they get away from them when they get back. Those small things tell me that it's not completely gelling and it's not locked in. And you know what that feels like, Corey. Like we've all felt that on the court at different times. Like your rhythm is just a little bit skewed, and that has a large part of that. And again, Grant McCaslin talked about this with Texas Tech, and Tommy Lloyd talked about this in the Texas Tech game about how sometimes the physicality can shift you off your path just a little bit to take you out of your rhythm. And that's what I kind of felt like Kansas State tried to do to Arizona and in their physicality. Arizona, in turn, tried to do that to K-State, and they were effective as well. Like, it's not like they got blown out. They were right there.
Right.
It just didn't go their way. And, it happens sometimes, especially on the road in the Big 12. You just got to be ready for it.
This is a good trivia question, and I challenge the people in the comments section to research this live in real time. Because I know for the 4 years that I played at Arizona, in none of those 4 years was our most effective offensive player a big man. And then I start to think about the years before and the years after. And I can't think of an Arizona team where our most skilled offensive player was the big. But yet, on all those Lute Olson teams, we always played inside out. We
Yeah.
started the boat. Give it to Joseph Blair. Give it to Ray Owens. Give it to Ben Davis. Give it to A.J. Bramlett. If you can't stop him, it's really going to be a long night. We always had better bigs than the other team, and it was just a doctrine. When you come off the pin down, you immediately turn, square up, and you spin that joint right into whoever's posting up. And we're Arizona, and we're going to get 3 or 4 jump hooks, 3 or 4 layups, get your bigs in trouble, force you to double team, and now Joe McClain's hitting you with the threes. Miles hitting you with the threes. Mike Dickerson hitting you with the threes. Jason Terry, Khalid Reeves, Damon Stoudemire, me. We get our threes after we beat you up in the paint. And we always shot a great percentage because, like I said, Lute's doctrine was inside out. It never really mattered who the big man was. We play inside out, and we force you to react, and then the percentages go up because you guys, now we're knocking down threes off of kickouts, or we're cutting to the lane for bounce passes and layups. But you're right. I think Vasar doesn't really post up. Toby's proven he can. They played without Trey Townsend. You could easily say Trey Townsend would have been the difference in a 3-point game on the road. I don't think that's a stretch to say that. But, that was one that definitely got away from Arizona.
Yeah. I mean, Trey Townsend, breakout game, missed.
Yeah.
Sorry.
For sure.
Sorry. I mean, that's a great point. I do think, maybe those Rooks, Chris Mills teams, to a certain degree had that presence, but I know there was great guard play on those teams. So
Actually,
it's not like
the year with B-Dub and Wooks, they were clearly the best offensive players on those teams.
The RIP Bison Dele. And then also, I would think, maybe the Michael Wright, led Wildcats to a certain degree. Not totally.
Channing was a go-to guy. There was
Channing
no question.
but Salim was kind of the dominant guy on that team.
True.
So I mean, yeah, it kind of ebbs and flows. And then I think recently, you go with DeAndre Ayton, his 1 year here, he was that guy, down low, obviously. So, but yeah, you're right. Predominantly, that's why they called Arizona for the longest time point guard U, just because guards dominate. Arizona's history. So, again, it is what it is, man. You live and you learn your lessons, and you got to get prepped because you got the big dogs of the conference coming to the town on Saturday, and we'll get to that right after this. All right, folks, if you're in the market for a home, I'm telling you, Carol Royce Realty is the place where you need to go. And that's it's the only way to go. It just is, like if you want to buy a house, it's the best place to go because all the relationships that Carol Royce and her team have put together across the state to get you the very best. And again, like her team and her unbeatable track record have sold over 12,000 homes across the valley. And that's why you can rest easy knowing that you're not just making the right choice, you're making a guaranteed one. Love your home, or Carol will buy it back. How about that? And hey, if you're looking to buy your dream home, you've probably been looking on Zillow or Realtor.com or whatever those sites are. Did you know that Carol Royce and her team, with them, you have access to thousands of off-market homes that you will not find online. So once again, go to Carol Royce. And if you're considering buying a home in 2025, the name to trust is Carol Royce, your home sold guaranteed realty. Move up to one of our listings and we'll buy your home for cash. Have questions, you can just call Carol Royce or visit the team at carolroyce.com. That's the carolroyceteam.com. And my guy showed him off last week, the Shady Rays, the Shades, that over 300,000 people just absolutely love. You see Corey rocking them. They're pretty dope. Styling, profiling, and realizing you look good. That's the way you got to do it here on the McKale Madness podcast. And Shady Rays is trying to help you out. So while you were trying to get hooked up in this basketball season, make sure you wear Shady Rays. If you're going out to Kansas City and you wear some Shady Rays, I promise you I'll buy you a beer. How about that for the Big 12 tournament? And, hey, we'll have a good time. So if you don't love your shades, you can exchange them for a new pair, or you can return them worry-free within 30 days. There's no risk when you shop with their team, and they always have your back, and their personal support is fantastic. So exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the season. Head to shadyrays.com and use promo code PHNX for 35% off polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades that are rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. All right. Corey, before we get to the next topic real quick, I did want to bring back up one thing, and that was, we talked about the teams, that, like Kansas State and what it's looking like, but we didn't talk about the rest of the teams that Arizona's lost to. And so, real quick, we'll bring up this graphic of the teams that Arizona's lost to. Wisconsin, currently ranked number 16. Duke is number 3 in the country. Oklahoma, West Virginia, UCLA, all still projected to be in the tournament. Texas Tech, number 12. Kansas State is unranked, but Kansas State's record and their, obviously their ascent is very respectable. And Kansas State is on the outside looking into the tournament, but they're right on the outside looking in because they have gotten so many quality wins in the last month that they're on the cusp of being in the tournament. So when you look at that, you realize that every single one of those losses was a quad 1 loss. Kansas State will be a quad 1 loss. It just will. So they have quality losses. They haven't lost to somebody that they had no business losing to. If Texas Tech would have lost last night, to me, that would have been far more egregious than Arizona losing to K-State. So you got to be, for lack of a better word, pleased with that, even though we're never pleased about losing.
No. Every game is an opportunity, and Arizona was favored at home against number 3 Iowa State. They'll probably, I don't know the lines, I don't gamble, but I would be surprised if they weren't favored at home against Houston. But when you have losses, people tend to look at the number of losses and don't look at who you lost to. Strength of schedule, I believe Arizona's 7th in the country in terms of strength of schedule. I think that's what I saw. I can't remember exactly, but they're firmly in the field of 68. For Wildcat fans like you and me who want to see a Final Four, who want to see a national championship, what we're looking for are trends. Do they handle their business when it presents itself? Is this a team that can win 4 games in a row, neutral site, in the NCAA tournament? Chances are they won't play an equally seeded team until the 3rd game of the tournament. So you want to know, can you beat your peers in a neutral site? And I think they squeaked out the win against Iowa State and McKale. When you look at, they're at Baylor, they're at Iowa State again, and they're at Kansas. Those games are the games that have that Elite 8 feel to them. Those are the teams you'll be trying to fight with to get to a Final Four. So for Arizona fans, I think the offensive consistency is what we need. I think we all remember how we felt watching that game against Clemson last year in the tournament and watching and being frustrated and seeing Arizona not be able to connect and score the way that they had all season. But there's no such thing as a good loss, but those aren't bad losses. And I was glad you showed that graphic because that's the thing I think a lot of Arizona fans have to drive home. Every team is capable of beating everybody in the Big 12. But what I'm looking at, big picture trends, does Arizona win the games that they're supposed to win? And the K-State game felt like a game they were supposed to win, and they didn't.
Yeah.
So
no, I would agree. I think if you go back at it, you understand why they lost these particular games. And I think there's some common themes. Turnovers is a big one. Earlier in the season, it was just a lackluster defense on the perimeter because they were getting torched by teams shooting threes. And thankfully the other night against against Kansas State, they were not hitting threes at all either.
Right.
So it was kind of, they have improved their defense overall. And I think when you're looking at a team like what they're about to face in Houston, there's going to be some common themes that will absolutely get you murdered if you continue to play the way that you did the other night. And they just can't happen. You got to take care of the ball. One thing I did want to talk about too was, I see a lot of chatter because it appeared to a lot of people that maybe this Arizona team is feeling a little fatigued. They're feeling a little worn down, a little tired. And I don't know if I agree. They look tired maybe in the second half against Kansas State, maybe, but I don't think it's like because they're playing too many games or anything like that. Maybe it just wasn't a good night. Maybe somebody was under the weather a little bit. I don't know. I don't necessarily, I never thought that, but I don't know. You were there. Did you feel like guys were gassed?
Hell no. Nobody gassed. That is insane. These are people who obviously never played collegiate basketball. First of all, you're young as hell. Your body's made out of crazy glue or the stuff they make bouncy balls out of. Yeah, do guys get hurt? Absolutely. Do guys get tired? No. It's a 40-minute game with TV timeouts. You're never tired. You might be winded, but you get a timeout, you go to the bench, you come back, you play. So people searching for reasons why Arizona underperformed, that's an easy one to latch onto. Guys are fatigued. If you're fatigued, shame on you. All these schools across the country have the best facilities. They've got medical staffs, trainers, they've got dietitians, they've got people. They have technology in their practice jersey that monitors their movement. They know how many steps a kid has taken all week. So the coaches have all that data at their fingertips. I was watching a guy put the clips in the back of a kid's. I said, what is that? Oh, we track everything. They track the basketballs. They track how much they move around. They don't just run sprints in basketball practice anymore like we used to. So the whole fatigue thing, mentally fatigued, that's a possibility. Physically fatigued, nah, I'm not buying it because everybody in college has the same schedule. Everybody in college has the same access to everything. They charter in, they charter out. It's like an NBA program at Duke, Kansas, you name it, it's NBA style. So I don't really buy into the guys being tired. Now, if you tell me that 38-minute a game, Jaden Bradley was a little tired towards the end of the game, I'll buy that because he only came out once. Caleb played 36 minutes. I'll buy that. If you got to chase around Doug McDaniel all game, I'll buy that. But the blanket excuse of fatigue, that's an easy, convenient excuse for just pay attention to what your eyes saw. You saw guys shoot 2 for 22, and you saw guys turn the ball over.
Yeah.
You clean that up, and you're not reaching for the fatigue excuse. I love basketball. I love sports because it's just like fine art. People can go to a museum, and 10 people can look at a painting, and they all see 10 different things. It's the same thing with sports. I don't know everything about basketball. I just get on the air and say what I see. A lot of people I'll talk to post-game, you included, you guys pick up on things that I may have missed. That's the beauty of it. That's why message boards are always popping. And like you said, there's all this chatter. Everybody has a set of eyes and can tell you what they saw. So I'm not dismissing the fatigue thing completely, but that didn't play a role in why Arizona lost that game. Arizona plays that game 10 times. They win it 9 times. We just happened to lose it the one time because we literally handed the game to him.
No, I totally agree.
Handed it to him.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I definitely agree with that. Like I left that game feeling like if we played him in neutral site or we played him at home, that's a wrap. I'm not scared of Kansas State by any stretch of the imagination. But
and hold on, you're talking to a guy who lost to Miami of Ohio in the first round of the NCAA tournament in 1995. There's no worse feeling in the world to give away your season to a team you should have beat by 30. I don't care who they had. We played our worst game of the year at the most inopportune time, and our season was over just like that. No do-overs. If Arizona wants to finish strong on the back 9 of this Big 12 schedule, they can bounce back from this. They can get back to their winning ways and a big win against Houston, but they know what it feels like to give one away. And if I was the coaching staff, I would have every one of those turnovers on a reel, and I'd have every one of those defensive errors on a reel, and I'd just be showing guys, this is how we lose right here. Forget the shot selection. Forget the missed threes. This is how we lose games. Pay attention. When we do these things, we can be beat. Just don't do this stuff.
Yeah.
And then they'll be good to go.
It's that simple. I actually I have a great clip that I'm going to share, but it's going to be in a second, and it's Kelvin Sampson talking about how they deal with turnovers. But we'll get to that right after this. Folks, you see the merch. You see it. Corey's wearing it. I'm wearing it. Branded Bills. That's the place to go. I actually just went to the Branded Bills facility this week. It was phenomenal. They have so much gear out there, and they have so many things that are up their sleeves, especially for Arizona fans. I can't wait for them to drop a lot of this stuff. And it was really exciting to see how everything was made back there, but it's all top of the line quality products, and it's Arizona grown. Like it was literally made out here in Mesa, and it was made in the most unique of ways. Like these guys were like tanning leather outside. It was crazy. But again, Brandon Bills is like one of the best and premier hats in the game, merch in the game. Like it's spreading like wildfire. More schools are jumping on board the Brandon Bills train, and you can too. And you can get yourself 20% off by using promo code PHNX on your first order at brandonbills.com. Brandon Bills is the best, and they have partnerships with the University of Arizona. If you actually go into the bookstore at the U of A, you'll see a special edition the Sugar Skull. There you go. It's a Wildcat Sugar Skull hat that's phenomenal, second to none. So go to Brandon Bills, get yourself some merch, or go to the bookstore and get yourself some fine merch from the people at Brandon Bills. Again, brandonbills.com, use promo code PHNX and get yourself 20% off. If you're a Suns fan, or if you're just a pizza fan, you can also go to Spinato's, hook yourself up with some pizza. You can play pizza instead of horse. It's called pizza, and you can win yourself some tickets to Suns games. You can get gift cards and all different types of prizes and free pizza. So again, if you're looking for a place to go to watch Suns games, if you're looking for a place to go to possibly win some free Suns tickets, or if you just want to go to pizza spot, Spinato's in the Valley is the place to go. Get all the info on the watch parties and pizza basketball contests at spinatospizzeria.com. Spinato's, official pizza of the Phoenix Suns. All right. So, like I said, I just teased it a little bit ago, but Kelvin Sampson talked about how they kind of had a turnover problem as well. And this is how he rectified that situation.
Thursday is what we call turnover Thursdays. And this is what you're talking about, Chris, is that's the only day I stat anything. So we only play 4-on-4. There's really not a lot of structure. We may give them an action to start with, but we put them in teams of 4, and it's 4-on-4. So if you score, you stay on. If you get scored on, you come off. But the only thing we're tracking that I'm emphasizing is turnovers. Now, we've had some kids have 7 turnovers in one day on turnover Thursdays. But every time you have 3 turnovers, the third turnover, there's an accountability. Phase kicks in. You can only imagine what happens when you have 7.
Okay, real quick. It's the subtle things. It's the little things, right? He says they have an accountability exercise. That's coach speak, folks. There's some punishment going on. Yeah. And then really quick, that last little bit, that laugh at the end, Corey, I'm sure every diabolical mind has that laugh where you're just like, because you get a little bit of, I'm not going to say pleasure out of punishing people, but like you've seen guys that have to get a little weathered. And that laugh to me was just like, yeah, listen, like we make a point and it goes through. Now, Kelvin Sampson did like along that interview did say that their turnovers started to go from like 7 to 4 to 3 to 2 to 1, like, and so it worked, right? And if you look at the metrics for what Houston brings to the table, they are one of the teams in the country that takes care of the ball, and they're solid. Houston's metrics across the board. This is what Houston brings to the table. They're number 1 according to Brett Torvik and Haslam metrics. They're number 2 according to BPI and Evan Mia, and then number 3 according to Ken Palm. Offensively, they are the number 2. The second most efficient offense in the country and the 5th slowest pace of play. Their efficiency is so outstanding. 129 points for every 100 possessions. That is fantastic. Defensively, they are just as good. Number 2 defensively efficiency in the country, and they give up 88 points per 100 possessions. You were talking about a team that is methodical, that is physical. They try to make you play their tempo, their style, and there's very specific ways in which you can beat Houston. And we're going to get to that because I'm a little concerned about the ways you can beat Houston and if Arizona has those ways in their tool bag. But your first reaction to the clip, Corey?
Well, he's obviously a great coach, and every coach in college basketball dreads turnovers because turnovers are the natural undoing of everything that you're trying to accomplish. Basically, a turnover is you striking a match and lighting a fire to your whole program. Every time it happens, it's like all your dreams and hopes go up in smoke because somebody dribbled off their leg or they threw a weak pass or, they didn't box out. Like, a turnover is an affront to your whole team. And it really can distract your team. Now, in his case, because he is a defensive-minded coach, his math is very simple. We are going to make sure we make you shoot a poor percentage. We are then, after we get you to miss, we are going to take our very sweet time in coming down the court and playing basketball. Now, we don't have to shoot it at a great clip because we're going to D you up. As long as we don't give you multiple possessions, it is mathematically impossible for you to beat us. That's what he's resting his hat on. That's the same philosophy Coach Olson had in the 80s and 90s. That's why he didn't care if you were an All-American. If you couldn't play defense, you never got on the floor at Arizona. No shade, but Chase Budinger was the first guy that played a lot that never D'd up. But everybody before then, you had to D up. I don't care if you were Miles Simon, Jason Terry. If you couldn't D up, you didn't play at Arizona because Lute understood the math. We hold you to 35%, we're going to win. Kelvin Sampson is the same exact coach. That's the reason he preaches against turnovers, because the only way you can beat Houston is if they give you the ball more than they have it, and you get out and knock down a couple of threes and you crank up the tempo. Houston is not built to play from behind. They never been built to play from behind. So how can Arizona knock them off? The McKale crazies get going. Caleb Love gets out of his mind, makes a few threes. Del Orso makes some threes. Houston gets down 12. Then you just trade baskets because that's the way they're built. Turnovers and bad plays destroy Houston's entire get down. That's their whole program. So I understand why he coaches against turnovers, because he wants a low-scoring, grinded-out affair on your side of the ball. Now, he's got guys that can catch fire and make shots as well, but the leading scorer at Houston is still only, 14 points a game? Mm-hmm. They're not lighting it on fire. Houston is D'ing you up, and they're beating you by 10 in a grind-out fist fight. That's the way they like to play. It's a great usage of the talent that he has. You remember 2-3 years ago, maybe even last year, Arizona was rocking and rolling in the Pac-12, averaging almost 90 points a game. Arizona fans got to get used to the fact that might be never coming back in the Big 12. Because I don't think people are going to let you just run up and down the court and get to 90. So I appreciate where he's coming from. It's definitely a style of coaching I've seen before, and it's very, very effective too.
It is. So I want to read this real quick, and it was too long for me to put it on a graphic, so I apologize, folks. But Haslam Metrics has a breakdown, and this to me defensively is just mind-boggling. Okay, Houston is most likely to shut you down inside the three-point arc, considering the team's limit to converting just 33.3% of their mid-range jumpers, 8th in the nation. 48.5% of their near proximity chances, 8th in the nation, and 38.2% of their total shots from the field, 8th in the nation. Houston, lastly, does a super job to deny opponents offensive rebounds and second chances. This is a stupid stat. They have a rating of 10.330. That's against average opponents. In potential points allowed off of a second chance, they allow the opponent to convert just 4.2% of their second chance opportunities as well. That is ridiculous. 4% on second chance opportunities. And that's not even the best in the country, which is wild to me. Houston, again, they have a methodical style. I've seen Houston's style and their play up close. This was back in 2022, Tommy Lloyd's first year, Sweet 16, San Antonio. I saw firsthand how intense Houston's defense can be. And so I have that in my head, and we fast forward to now. Houston's very good. However, they can be beat. And Corey, you laid it out perfectly. you gotta get out to a lead. You can't fist fight them and try to match up with their game. You can't slow it down yourself and try to match up with their game. But you got to be responsible. You got to be calculated in your approach when you get out on the break, when you jack up a shot, maybe 15 seconds into the shot clock. You better make sure it's a good shot, because if you can get out ahead of Houston, to your point, it is very hard for them to come back because they're not really necessarily built like that. But they haven't had to very much. And they do have guys that can score. So let's take a look at some of the matchups with ball up top. Uzan, very good. He's kind of like their initiator on the offensive side, point guard. Cryer, Sharp, good players, can shoot from the outside. They can do a little bit of everything. They go with a 3-guard lineup, 2 forwards. They don't have a lot of height, but they have physical players, which, Tugler and Roberts. Roberts is their better low post player. Tugler's out there. He doesn't really score a lot, but he does a lot of the dirty work. They have guys that come off the bench as well that are pretty good, and Wilson and Francis. So when I look at this, I don't know which matchup I really feel confident about. I have major concerns about Delhi against any one of those 3 guards, because Delhi has struggled against the good guards in this conference. And all 3 of those guards are legit. They're solid. That's the one place I have a little bit of concern. I don't know if Trey Townsend's going to play. We still haven't heard if he's officially out or not for Saturday. Still in concussion protocol. Hopefully he comes back, because I know that for as much as we've kind of given him such a hard time, he does provide value, especially in terms of rotations, which Arizona could use. So it's going to be a handful for Arizona. If they play the way they played Tuesday, it's going to be damn near impossible to beat Houston.
I was thinking as we're talking about Houston's defense, and I was trying to figure out when the switch flipped for me as a player. And I remember we played Arkansas, 40 minutes of press. They were all over the court. And I remember, Coach O told us, he said, anybody who goes back on their heels with the ball in a trap, you're coming out. If you don't step through and be strong and have some pride and show them some strength and push back against that defensive pressure, I can't have you on the floor. And Houston does put people on their heels, because the way Houston plays is this. We're going to line up man-to-man, and you guys might get excited about made baskets and all that kind of stuff. We get excited about shutting you down.
Yeah.
The longer we play D, the longer I get to stay out here. As long as I don't give up buckets, I'm going to get playing time. So the mentality of his players is they take legit pride in locking you up. That's how they love to play. They reach, they grab, they do all of these things because they know that's where the fun is, and that's where their credibility and their worth to coach is. Man, look at me out here getting deflections. Look at me harassing this guy. You used to catch the ball at the 3-point line. Now I got you catching the ball way out by mid-court. So they get geeked up to play defense. So Arizona has to be ready to meet that intensity offensively. And what I mean by that, be strong with the ball, attack them with the same intensity. Even if you have no intention on shooting the ball, draw that blocking foul. And then you'll see Houston start to back off, because they only have so many bodies, just like anybody else. Mm-hmm. So that aggressive defense, you have to meet it. And I hate to say this out loud, but you do got to put pressure on the officials. Drive at that defender, rake the ball through his hands, get those ticky-tack fouls called so they knock that nonsense off. Because to me, honestly, a lot of it's smoke and mirrors. And it wasn't until I was playing professionally for money that I realized the guy that's all up on you is doing it because he doesn't really believe he can stop you.
Oh, yeah.
It's all psychologically designed to cause you to hesitate. Rack the ball, go right by him, take the contact, hand it to the ref. That's one blocking foul. Come over here with that silly shit again. Boom, 2 fouls, go sit down. And that's how I played my entire professional career, because I knew what it was. A skilled defender like KJ Lewis, they know. KJ's not out there doing all this silly stuff all the time. KJ's sitting in the weeds waiting. Steal, deflection, pickpocket, block. Very tempered, very cerebral. But the guys that are harassing you, like you said, usually they're not fundamentally sound once you get them on the move. But that's just the throwback to when I played. things are a little bit different. But the one thing I know for sure, guys are going to have to be strong with the ball because the officials are used to how Houston plays. Yes, he hit your wrist, but they don't call it. So get used to it. I said this before, whoever starts complaining to the refs first will lose. That's how it always is in the Big 12.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'll give Arizona credit. I haven't seen a lot of, complaining or anything like that during these
No, they're
games.
not pro like that.
And honestly, I haven't seen really too many players, kind of flop or bitch or complain about anything really either, because that's just not what this conference is built on. Like, this is like, dude, man up. If you can't man up, go take your ass over there into the 15th row because you don't belong out here. That's just what it is, right? I was a turnstile on defense, man. I was not very good defensively. So when you talked about encroaching their space, like, to me, I had to hug my man because if I gave him any kind of space, like, I was toast, man. Like, I was not a good defender. I had the slowest feet in the country, man. I swear. Like, that's just what it was. So like, I had to play up on my man. And I had to weak side defense, team defense, put me in a zone. I was great. One-on-one, man-to-man, not so much me. And so, like, you kind of hit a nerve there, Corey. Like,
your footwork was a little suspect. Hey, I didn't really get in good playing defense to my junior year at Arizona. My first 2 years, I was a defensive nightmare. I could give you buckets. Coach was so frustrated because Corey can score, but Corey will give up a backdoor. Corey will get beat on a lob. Corey will get caught on a screen. But, combination of weight room, repetition, and attitude, finally it sunk in and I became a solid defender and this is another point, like, letting a player play through a defensive error. There are so many coaches that wish they could do that. When you've got a 5th-year senior or a grad transfer who knows what's going on, or a player like Jaden Bradley, you can let Jaden play through a defensive error. He looks over, Tommy, my bad. Okay, get it next time. Caleb may let some things go. But, with some of these guys, you can't let them play through defensive errors because every possession matters. In Houston, they'll do dribble handoffs knowing that Arizona is going to switch everything until they get to the guy they want versus Del Orso, or the guy they want against Carter Bryant, or, whoever they sense is the weaker defender. They'll keep doing that until they get the matchup they want. So, getting guys that are locked in, that are playing good defense, I think that's important. But most importantly, I think is going to be the fans and the atmosphere Saturday. If the atmosphere is there and the guys come out on fire, Houston can get got. And let's be honest, if they even things up with Houston's got Iowa State, at Texas Tech, Kansas at home, and at Baylor. There's no guarantee Houston's going to go unscathed the rest of the way in the tournament. Now, or the rest of the way in league play. And on the flip side for Arizona, if they don't get this game in Houston, Wildcat Nation could be looking at a 3-game skid because they go to Baylor after this. And K-State, it was a walk in the park compared to playing at Baylor. Baylor can beat anybody on their home floor. And I mean that with all sincerity. They're that good at home. So Arizona can even the score against Houston, and then they're going to have to be road warriors and win 2 out of 3 of those home games. We're talking about Baylor, Iowa State, and Kansas. If they can win 2 of those 3 and Houston slips up, who knows? We may be, first timers and hoisting the trophy at the end of the regular season.
Yeah, I actually think the team to look out for is Tech because they have a pretty easy road ahead of them. But again, as we saw last night, and I was talking to somebody on Twitter about this, is just like, you just can't predict what these teams are going to do in the conference because any team can get got any night. Like, that's how good this conference is from top to bottom. You know, even ASU in double overtime in Lubbock, that's just the nature of the beast in this conference, man. You just never know. And I like the environment. I think it's going to be electric. It was electric last week when they played Tech at home. I have no reason to doubt that this will be the same thing this time around. Houston is going to be our nemesis, I feel like, for the next decade, or as long as Kelvin Sampson is there. Houston has just got a great program now, and you got to respect it. With that respect, though, I do want to say this. Kelvin Sampson in the press conference earlier today, Man, and at 8 o'clock tonight, we'll have the full presser up on our PHNX YouTube page. But he had tremendous, and I do mean tremendous respect and emotion when talking about Arizona. And this is just a little snippet when he talked about Lute Olson and the Arizona legacy.
We took over a tough situation in Pullman at Washington State. And that was about the time when Coach Lute Olson was getting the basketball program going at Arizona. And he created a monster. It saddens me that there's a generation of kids that will never know what Arizona basketball was with Lute. I was there with Sean Elliott, Steve Kerr, I think it was Anthony Cook, Tom Tolbert, Craig McMillan, Khalid Reeves, Damon Stoudemire, Chris Mills. They were the program. I mean, they set the bar. UCLA had the name, but Arizona had the program.
It's kind of hard to hear that because how much it means to people, and to see somebody like Kelvin Sampson who's been to Oklahoma and Indiana and and now at Houston, and he's gone through the gamut of the coaching cycle of life. He goes on to just talk about Bobby and Lute, and it was phenomenal. And shout out to my guy Chance Johnson, who used to be my intern over at Fox Sports Arizona. He's an ASU grad, unfortunately, but he's the one that asked the question about, like, what do you think about Arizona and their legacy, and gave Kelvin Sampson the runway. And I just thought his answer was just special.
Well, it reminded me of a clip I saw on Instagram last week where Allen Iverson was talking about his rookie season where John Stockton just cooked him. There was nothing he could do. He was just getting cooked. And he was like, I didn't understand what was going on. And my coaches were laughing, like, don't worry, Rook, you'll get there. And this is Allen Iverson, rookie year. And he talked about, and you could see in the way he was telling the story, I'm in this deal and I'm standing across where I want to be. And listening to Kelvin Sampson talk as a young coach at Washington State, he was looking across at Lute and the program he had built, and that's where he wanted to be. And I think Kelvin Sampson has had a phenomenal coaching career. But when you first get in the game and you're teed up against a great, it doesn't even matter what the profession is. It does something to you, and it puts something in you. That's where I want to be. That's the kind of program I want to build. Yeah, everybody wants to win, but man, I'm sitting here scheming how to beat this guy. And I know I don't have the players, but not only does he have the players, he outcoached me that game. And then I played him next year and he outcoached me again. And it's this whole thing of having a goal, a target, a nemesis, if you will, but you could hear the respect in his voice. And I remember those Washington State teams. We never took Washington State seriously. We knew we was going to go up there and get a win. But Coach made us play his way with class, with dignity, the same way we played the year before. When freshmen came into the program, we had to teach them how we play ball at Arizona. We don't throw behind the back passes. We don't look off the post. We don't jack crazy threes like that with the defender. Like, you literally, it's like a college level course on how we play. And this way that we played had been passed down from generation to generation to generation because Coach was there the whole time. So I understand completely what he was saying about the program. He used the word program. Well, thanks to the transfer portal and NIL, you don't get a chance to build much of a program anymore. But it was definitely a great tribute to Coach O. And Coach O was one of the few coaches in the country. There was a lot of other great coaches as well who got to do things their way. Mike Krzyzewski, Tom Izzo, Jimmy Boeheim, Dean Smith, Steve Fisher. These coaches got to do things their way for decades and build programs. And the fans still remember that, but he's right. It is a bygone era.
It is a bygone era. I think there's a little bit of carryover with the elite coaches. I think they have a little bit more staying power than in terms of holding on to their talent than other schools do. I mean, you can see the Max Exodus of players at like ASU and other programs, right? But like the Kansases, the Arizonas of the world, like they tend to hold on to a majority of their roster, and they got to fill gaps as they go through. And mostly their problem is like, who do we say no to come in instead of, pushing anybody out, right? And so that's a good luxury to have, because people respect Tommy Lloyd. I mean, that's why you see Bryce James want to come to this program and be a part of it, even though he's not a highly regarded recruit. By name he is, but like, he's not a 5-star. He's not a McDonald's All-American. So why does he want to come to the University of Arizona? It's because they believe in Tommy and what he can do in terms of his development. And that means something. Kelvin Sampson, again, he's got a DNA in that program. Like, I feel like if I close my eye, if you had blank jerseys on everybody and you're like, this team is out here playing against this team, I would be able to identify which one of those was a Kelvin Sampson team as opposed to not, right? Just because of the way they're built. Go ahead.
You know what it's like? I'm going to take you back to when you was a little kid on Saturday morning watching the Kung Fu movies, right? You used to watch Kung Fu movies?
No, man, I had cartoons in the morning, man.
So Kung Fu movies, right? Didn't even matter. You had all these different Kung Fu artists from different villages, and they all had different styles. One had crane technique. One had tiger paw. The other had a lot. So style. You see what I'm saying? Everybody had their own, like Drunken Monkey, or they had these different styles.
I just so you know, I had the glow. Just so you know. Keep going.
So that's coaching. I know what a Mick Cronin team is going to do. I know what a Lute Olson team looks like. I know what a Bobby Huggins Cincinnati team. I know how me and my buddy, we joke about it all the time. We know what these coaches' earmarks are. We know how they coach, their philosophies, the coaches that let her rip and run the court. Nolan Richardson pressed, Mike Krzyzewski pictured parked to death. Like, all these coaches had their own way that they attack the game. And it literally is a style of play. And you're right. You can tell a Kelvin Sampson team. Well, we play a Kelvin Sampson. It doesn't matter what school he's at. It's gonna be a rough night. You better be ready to defend. You better take care of the ball, because any kid that plays for him is stepping out there with his voice in their ears and in their head, and they're gonna play hella defense. That's just what he does. So and he's been very successful doing it. It's like, some people go after the McDonald All-American 5-star that can make shots from everywhere. And then you got people like Kelvin Sampson who go after the mid-major kid that's going to lock him up that you've never heard of.
Yeah.
I don't care how I win. There's a ton of ways and a ton of paths to victory. So that's what makes basketball great.
No, I mean, you kind of left out one. Man, I hope I don't trigger Jayhawk fans, man. But like, I feel like the Jayhawks always have like 2 elite athletes and a bunch of dudes that you would never take seriously in the gym, and they still run you out of the building. Like, when I look at Hunter Dickinson, I was like, not him. No way him.
And I played in the heyday where they had lottery picks. They had Jacques Vaughn, Jared Haas, Scott Pollard, Rafe LaFrance. Kansas keeps pros on deck, but there's only like 2 of them at a time. Yeah. And then a bunch of bookend players that are knocking down threes, back screening you, getting steals, layups. Like, Kansas has a pretty good formula, and they've always stockpiled talent as well. I mean, when you get mail from the Jayhawks and you get recruited by them, you pay attention. That's one of the elite programs in the country. You know you're going to leave a better player than when you got there, for sure.
Absolutely. We're going to talk about projections here in a second. Just want to let you know that if you're watching on any of our streaming platforms, make sure you just shoot on over to our website, gophnx.com, to catch the rest of this show. Those of you who are still here on other platforms, hey, stay around. All right, projections. Let's get to what the road ahead looks like. Obviously, we kind of talked about the Big 12 path ahead. Big 12 tournament coming up in just about 4 weeks. Oh, man, I am so excited. I will be out there forever. I will be out there from March 7th to March 16th because I'm going to the KU game. Going to cover that. Going to do some behind the scenes, some vlog stuff, and all this good, cool stuff. And then I'm gonna stay out there for a couple days. And I'm gonna get me some Arthur Bryant's, some Gates barbecue, some, all the staples. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm sorry. You're just gonna have to come hook up with me, and I'll take you to Jack Stack and LC's. It's fantastic. My favorite barbecue in the world. Anyway. And then the tournament starts that next week. And Corey, you know how much I love the tournament. I love the first 2 days, just sitting there chopping it up with everybody, watching just great ball every single day 4 games a day. I can't wait. It's going to be fun. But the road to get to the tournament is here. It's in front of us. The projections continues to come out. And for Joe Lunardi, he put out what he projected Arizona's seed to be. And this was updated as of yesterday. Arizona is projected to be a 3 seed. So they have moved quite far, all the way up to a 3 seed. They're on the cusp of being a 4 seed just because he has it ranked as 12 overall. And in the Big 12, you have Houston as a projected 2 seed. Iowa State, Texas Tech, and Arizona, all 3 seeds. Kansas is a 4 seed. Baylor is a 9 seed. And then West Virginia, a 10 seed. BYU would be one of the last 4 in. And Kansas State would be one of the next 4 out. Again, that's a huge jump from where Kansas State was before. And then rounding it all out, Cincinnati, ASU, and UCF are all on the outside looking in, and they need to make some major headway. How ASU is still on that, I'm really baffled by, because they don't really have any big signature victories. They've played close in a lot of games, but they haven't won them. So how that's the case, I'm a little
they might be giving them the injury discount. They've had a lot of key players out that, the superstar freshman, he hasn't been available. Yeah. So you never know with these guys, but it's insane to me because when you take out the field of 68, you got your automatic bids from Champ Week. You're looking at 20 teams between the SEC and the Big 12. 20. Damn near a little less than half the tournament will be from 2 conferences.
Yeah. 8 teams projected from the Big 12.
And 13 from the SEC.
You know the last time the Pac-12 even had 8 teams considered for the tournament?
6 was a banner year for the Pac-12.
6 was like, oh my gosh, we were balling out this year.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. And, you look at it and it's like, man, you got to have 2 sets of eyes, because the polls and the rankings tell you absolutely nothing. I don't really pay attention to rankings until February, because that's when you had a month worth of league play under your belt and we can kind of see how things are shaking out. But the teams that have the rankings, the conferences that are getting the respect, it's going to be an interesting tournament. There's going to be some great matchups. You never know where these mid-majors are going to come out and play and how they're going to come out and play. But that's a lot of teams from just 2 conferences. But it is what it is.
We do appreciate you all joining us on the show. The projection for the bracket itself, this is as of 2 days ago. This is before the Arizona game, but he does have Arizona on that 3 line, UCLA on the 6 line, trending down. But that would be the potential second round matchup, is Arizona with a rematch against UCLA, which, I don't know if I want to see that, but hey, if it is what it is, then it's time to get revenge. Arizona's 2-0 in revenge games this year. I expect that trend to continue if we do have to face UCLA in March, but we won't get too far ahead of ourselves. Listen, I know these games can go up and down, and there's frustration and stuff like that. But I was saying on the radio the other day in the pregame before, I just love this. Like, I love every little bit of how fun these games are to watch, how intense they are for both fan bases. Like, it's not the cleanest basketball in the world because we see it, but it is still fun basketball to watch. And it feels like every game does feel like a tournament game. It feels like any little error could cost you big in these games. And I just love it. I don't mind the stress that it puts on me. My Aura ring is telling me, bro, you need to calm down and just sit down and relax, take some deep breaths, go outside, take a walk, touch the grass or something like that. But I'm like, no, man, I'm locked in. Let's go. Let's do this. And it's just fun. It's just fun.
It's great. And it's a new arena for the Arizona Wildcat fan, because in the Big 12, Arizona, all the top teams, your margin for error is so thin. This is an uncomfortable situation for Arizona fans. We used to be able to play bad and beat Oregon State. We could be off and still knock off USC. We could have not so great game and beat Arizona State. The days of us having a not so great game and still getting a dub, those are gone. If you don't play great, you're going to lose. You'll lose at BYU. You'll lose at Colorado. So this new level of anxiety that Wildcat fans feel, get used to it. It's here to stay. It's the Big 12 where multiple turnovers get you an L. Poor shooting gets you an L. Failure to box out gets you an L. There are no disrespect. There are no Washington State, Oregon State, Washington games, Oregon where you can do, oh, we're going to beat Cal, we're going to beat Stan. No, the Big 12 has a bunch of physical athletes, and all the refs let them play. Did you see how many times bodies went to the floor?
My God,
at Kansas State, and there was no call.
I loved it.
I mean, you guys locked up and you both fell. Okay. Neither one of you have the ball. So what do I look like blowing the whistle on that? So you guys want to push and shove and fall to the ground? That's fine. That's not, we're not worried about that. That's a different type of basketball. And I think Arizona's adjusted well to it. I think they have.
I think they have too. Like, and again, like now it's our turn as fans to adjust to it because it's, listen, they used to say in March, you want to know what it feels like to be an Arizona Wildcats fan, like clench your butt cheeks up for 2 straight hours in March, every other day. And that's what it feels like. Well, now it's like that shit starts in January. So, you know what I mean? Like, hey, listen, you're going to have some really strong glutes by the time you get to the end of the season. I promise you that. Well, so
it goes back to our vision board. Can any Arizona fan say for certain how Arizona is going to play offensively Saturday, or is everybody in the same boat on some wait and see type stuff?
Everybody's in the same boat.
Yeah, we can't say for certainty. I know Vasar is going to give me 16 and 8. I know Caleb's going to give me 20 because we haven't seen offensive consistency. We've seen wins. We've seen 13 of the last 15 wins, but have we seen them the same way? I mean, we've seen Toby Awaka show up. We've seen Deli knock down 6 threes. We've seen Caleb hit a 60-footer. We've seen all manner of foolishness out of this Arizona team. We don't know what we're going to see Saturday at noon. And so, of course, nobody feels good. And when you talk about winning 6 games in a row and getting a national championship, that's a lot. That's some heavy lifting for Arizona fans to get there, given what they've seen. So
it is.
I love it, though. You're right. I'm going to be there Saturday at noon, nervous as heck, just like everybody else.
Yeah, I would say this, too. If we win the Big 12 this year, I will feel like this was well-earned.
Oh, yeah.
This was well-earned, more than in the Pac-12 of recent. Like, it's great to beat UCLA. It's great to beat Oregon. You know, it's great to beat those teams to win a Pac-12 tournament championship. That's great. But, you know, outside of one specific year, like those teams weren't even top ranked. They weren't in the top 10. The one year was 2017 with Larry Markkinen. And UCLA was top ranked because of Lonzo Ball and company. And then you had Oregon, who ended up going to the national championship that year. You know, like it was just like that was a good year. But outside of that, you know, you had a lot of watered down competition. And then you got to the tournament and you had to prove yourself. And you weren't really built for it, you know, and you got stunned a couple times. And I think that's what I think is what everybody's really waiting for, is to see, okay, we heard all this stuff about the Big 12, and we heard this talk about how the Big 12 is going to get us better prepared for the tournament. Lord, I mean, if this doesn't prepare you for the tournament, nothing in the world will, because this has been a battle and you have been tested every single night. And the next test is this Saturday at 12 o'clock in the afternoon in McKale Center. I cannot wait for Houston, the number 6 team in the country, to come to McKale. And I can't wait to see everybody there just going crazy, because it should be loud. It should be crazy. I know the student section is going to bring it. It's going to be a fun environment. So let's get this one. Let's get this dub. We need this.
I want to say one other thing, and I'm just going to be honest about it. If Arizona wins the regular season, or they win the tournament, I'm going to be a complete jackass. I'm going to be insufferable. People, stay away from me. I'm going to be talking so much trash to everybody I see. I'm going to be going to ESPN meetings with Arizona gear on. I don't even give a damn at that point, because they were telling us we were too soft and it was going to be a wake-up call and all of this crap. I was listening to it from my colleagues at the network, from so-called pundits, people in my inbox telling me how the Big 12 ain't the Pac-12. You better get ready. If we win the league, regular season or tournament, I'm coming for everybody's head. I don't care. I'm going to be a jackass. It is what it is. Get ready. Let's go, Cats.
For Corey Williams, you can follow him at College Corey on Twitter or on Instagram. You can follow me at Saul_Bookman. You can follow the show at PHNX_Wildcats. For you football fans, Genesis Smith is going to be joining the squad tomorrow on PHNX Wildcats. And it's going to be a fun time. Kevin and Damon will have your post-game show on Saturday following the Houston game. I'll be live from McKale. So will Erica Day. Shout out to Erica. I see you in the chat. Thank you all. I see Tony Valentine, Max, Nolan, Jerry, Lost Highway. Appreciate all you guys for joining the squad today. And remember, hey, we cheer loud, we cheer proud. And as always, bear down.
We all silly like the mayor.